Hello, thank you for joining me today. This is Artful with Michelle. Today we're going to be painting my farmhouse chicken rooster, whatever you want it to be. I'm using an 8x10 canvas. You can use any size canvas. I've painted this on a 10x20. It looks great on just about any size. So you can adjust your pattern and make it work for you for whatever size that you'd like. Today we're going to be using the following colors and brushes. So for the brushes I have about a 1/2 inch flat, a number 6, no this one's a number 8 round. Different companies' numbers run differently, so you can see about the size of it. And I have a larger round, which this one is a number 10. Okay, you might want a pencil for drawing your chicken. You can also use a traceable. I have a paper towel handy, a water basin, and these are the colors that we'll be using today. We're using student grade liquid acrylic in deep yellow, cobalt blue, burnt umber, deep red, bright red, titanium white, and Mars black. Alright, so we're going to get started by using our 1/2 inch flat. We're going to get it nice and wet in our water. Touch it on our paper towel. I'm going to put the paper towel right here. Okay. And what I'm going to do, I want a blue, but I want it to be kind of a warmer blue than this cobalt. So I'm going to mix a little bit of the burnt umber in it and lots of white, and I'm going to do a very subtle background. So I'm going to take some white, some blue, a little brown, and see what I get here. So I'm looking for a softer, more muted blue. It's getting better. A little more brown. Of course, you can use any color for your background that you would like. Alright, so I'm liking that one a lot, but that's a lot of paint on my brush and I don't want that much. So I'm going to wipe it off. And I have quite a bit of paint still in the brush, so I'm just going to grab a little bit of white and I'm going to see how that looks. So that's good. That's about the color I want. I want a very pale sky background and I want it to be a little bit warmer than the cobalt. So adding that burnt umber certainly helps. Now, so I'm adding white as I go, and I'm just going to quickly go around my chicken. I kind of looked online and the roosters and the chickens pretty much look the same to me, so you can determine if you want to add more red in it or anything that makes you happy. So I'm going to go around the crown, and I'm not being too fussy because we're going to go paint that in over the blue. I do like it a little bit darker here, closer to the chicken, and more white out around the back. Now the tail feathers are going to curl up and around here. So I'm just going to put some light blue in there, kind of in a jagged motion, because my tail feathers are going to come up in here, so I'm not covering it completely. I want it a little bit deeper up there. So I'm using a crisscross motion to blend the paint, and I'm dipping in the white every time I go grab a little bit more of this blue mix. So I'm grabbing some white as I go, and I kind of brush mix on my canvas. I'm just going to go around this, and as I come out I'm going to add a little bit more white. I want a little bit deeper color in here where those tail feathers are going to turn around. And I'm moving my brush in the direction that I want it to look like they're going to go later when we paint them in. All right. So I'm just going to get this little part right in here done. Letting it be just a little bit deeper in color there. Okay, grab a little bit more white. Now the white serves two purposes. It's making the color lighter, but it also helps make it a little bit more opaque, so it's not quite as transparent. Okay, there we go. I do want to make it a little bit darker up around the edges, so I'm going to grab more of that blue paint and tip this up a little bit and get some more up there, and I'm just going to brush it down into the rest of the background. Okay, a little bit more over here. Now you could go in and put some clouds in there if you wanted, but I just want a very simple background, and my chicken is going to take up about the whole painting, the whole canvas. All right, here we go. So we're going to start painting in the chicken. So I'm going to work on the body, and then we'll go up and we'll do the feathers. And that's, to me, that's the fun. I love doing the feathers. So we're going to take our larger round brush, wet it, pull it over our paper towel. We're going to grab mostly white on our brush. Okay. And I'm going to start applying it from the top down the side. Now, when you're painting something like this, you want to move your brush in the direction that the feathers would lay. You wouldn't want to brush this horizontally. You want your paintbrush to move the way the shape of the bird is and the way the feathers would lay. Okay, so while that's wet, I'm going to start adding little tiny bits of my burnt umber. So I'm going to take a little bit on the tip, just a little like that, and I'm going to put it here, and I'm just going to blend. And blend is just a word for rubbing the colors together. Okay. And we can put a little bit at the top. Again, I'm just grabbing little tiny bits. I'm just going to hold my plate here in my left hand for a bit. So I don't want to turn my chicken brown. I want this to be a white chicken, but you could certainly make it brown and add you know, black shading. It would be beautiful with highlights. So make it your own. So you notice I'm starting to curve the brush, and I'm going to grab little bits of brown, and I'm just going to blend in that same stroke direction, okay, to give it some shape. And now I'm going to come here below. Is that the wattle? Okay. And we're just going to come down. We're going to shape, turn our brush in the other direction now. And again, I'm going to grab little tiny bits of burnt umber, and I'm going to start making the feathers look like they're turning this way. And as I get into the middle, I kind of straighten it up. It's very, very subtle right now. I don't want a lot going on right here. Okay, and then right in through here, we're going to continue with white. And before I go too far with shading in there, I want to go ahead and start getting the back of this chicken and the feathers starting to go up the back. Then we'll come in and add some more shading in here. So we're going to get our white, And if you want to make your edges jagged to make it look like little feathers are sticking out, more like that, you can do that too. Just have fun with it. Okay. So, as we come up and around, I'm grabbing my white, and now I'm going to need a little more white, I think. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to grab white plus burnt umber, and I'm going to make a light brown. Okay, and I'm going to start getting some tail feathers in there like that. A little bit more brown and white. And I'm just holding the brush loosely higher up the handle, and I'm coming from here up and around, and as I turn, I'm releasing the pressure on my brush to let that little curly cue at the end be a little bit more narrow at the point. So I'm just going to get some brush strokes in there, and I'm going to bring some of this darker color out there. Okay, and I'm just having fun with that. If it touches his head, that's okay too. We don't want to go much further than this area. So I'm giving myself a guide there. Okay, so and then we're going to start letting that dry a little bit. Okay, we're going to let it dry, and we're going to come in with lots of white. I'm going to wipe my brush and start back on the chicken. And I'm going to work on this area right here. And I'm just brushing. I have a little bit of brown still in my brush, so I really didn't have to add more. Just grabbing a little bit of white. Okay, so as this dries, we will go and we'll start working up in here on the red. I'm going to put this brush in the water. I'm going to take my small round, wet it, touch it on my paper towel, and let's go ahead and take some of the deep yellow and just paint in that beak right now. This is just the base coat. I'm not worried about shading and highlighting yet. Just going to get one coat on there. Okay, I'm going to rinse that brush. And now I'm going to paint all the red area. And I'm going to use the color Deep Red. And this is going to be a process. I'm letting the point of the brush create the point. And I will be flipping this around so I can get at this area from the other side. I do that a lot when I'm painting. Have fun with this and make it go every which way, whatever you like. Okay, I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to try to hold it right here for you. And basically, I'm just going to very carefully with my round brush go in. You could paint right through the eye and come back in and add it later, whatever your preference is for that. And I'm just going to take the red and finish this area. Come down. That white is a little bit wet right there. You can always blow dry in between steps. Okay. Go around the eye area, making it just a little smaller. Alright, so that's base coated. So that's the first layer. I'm going to smooth out any bumps I might have. The other thing too is you can bring your brush up and make your points even smaller and make it look a little bit more like hair if you want. Not hair, but I'm not sure what they call that. I guess it's kind of like a skin up there. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to put that down. Rinse my brush. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and just put some white in the eye. Okay. Grab a little bit of the deep yellow and just kind of gently pat a little bit more in there. And while that's wet, I'm going to take just a tiny bit of the burnt umber and I'm going to gently start to tap that in there. I'm letting some of the yellow is showing through because it's still wet, and I just want that to be kind of soft, and we're going to highlight in there too. Okay. So while the red is drying, we're going to come back in and work on the tail feathers. And I'm going to go back to the larger brush, larger round, and I'm going to load it fairly heavily with white. So I have quite a bit, but I also have it to the point where I can still control the brush. It's not so full of paint that I have no control. And you can also just kind of roll your brush too, so you don't have too much there. And what I'm going to do is just come up in through here over the brown, and just I'm going, as I'm painting, I'm not really taking into consideration what those feathers on the bottom are doing. I don't want that to hinder my brush strokes or my, you know, my ability to just go in there and have some fun. So I'm just going to come in. Now I need more paint. Just going to come in and let them curl. Kind of have fun with that. I'm going to put some over here to just kind of maybe feather out a little bit. And I'm going to come in, and I'm not pressing hard. I don't want to over blend or anything. I want these white strokes to show on top of the other colors. Okay. So I'm throwing in some little feathers here and there. And again, as this dries a little bit more, we'll come in and we'll add some even brighter feathers. Okay. The hardest part is knowing when to stop. When do you want to stop? Because it's so much fun. Okay. I'm going to put that brush in the water. And I'm going to go back to the small round. And I'm going to go back to the red areas. And I'm going to take some of the deep red. Now I'm just going to kind of pat it in. And I'm going to grab a little of the brighter red too. And I'm going to work with some of that at the same time. So I have a mix. And I'm not doing the part that touches the top of the head. I'm doing the other area out and through here. I'm just patting a little bit. Pat, pat, just gently laying the brush down and patting a little bit. Now while that's wet, I'm going to grab a little tiny bit of white and I'm going to start taking the white and adding it and just gently patting with my brush, kind of laying down just to kind of blend it in. And as that dries, it's going to kind of get absorbed into the red, and as you press it like this, it gets absorbed down into the red. I'm just going to keep adding more. Start with little bits because you know you can always add, but it's very hard to take away when you're painting. I don't really want to turn it pink, so I have to be careful to do more patting than rubbing. A bit more in through here. If it gets too white, you can go in and grab a little bit of that bright red and go back into it also. And I'm going to do the front portion of this area and a little bit down the front portion here. Rinse my brush a little bit. Okay, so now what I want to do, I want to put some darker color up against the top of the head. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of the red and a little bit of the burnt umber on my brush, and right in through here, I'm going to start adding some burnt umber. I'm going to pat it up into there. You could also do this with black. Well, I think I dipped in my black by mistake. Yes, I just dipped in the black. So that's good because I can show you the black too. So down in here it's burnt umber, but now I have black on my brush. So let's just go with that. And wipe my brush. You can gently put it in and just kind of rub the brush a little bit and see how that's making a nice shadow there. And so I'll stick with the black, but we'll just do it in little tiny bits. So I'm going to put black there, wipe my brush. I'm going to grab a little bit of the deep red just to help me blend that. And now I need to straighten that out. A little bit of red. So you can do this in either the black or the brown. I was going to use brown, but I dipped my brush in the black by mistake, so I tend to kind of just go with it when that happens. I'm not worried about the eye right now. So I'm just kind of rubbing that. Okay, that gives us nice shading there. I'm going to touch up any little spots that got rough in the process. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of that bright red. Just dabble a little bit of that in there. So just kind of play with those colors to get a look that you really like. Okay. I'm going to rinse that brush and take some of the yellow and go back to the beak a little bit. Put a little yellow over that brown. Then I'm going to take a little bit of white plus yellow. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to tap a little bit of the white. Just need to fix that right there. Alright. Alright, I'm liking that. I'm going to take a little bit of white. Just put it at the bottom of the top portion of the beak where it touches the part that we made darker. I'm going to put a little bit of white there and just brighten the top. And I'm going to put a little tiny bit up at the top, a little bit of white. Alright, she's looking pretty good. I got my hand in some paint and dirtied her up over here, so let's see. I think I have a wet paper towel. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can get it off with water. Okay. So that worked pretty well. I'll just have to get back in there and add some more paint. Okay. Alright, so far we have our tail feathers and most in our body done and most of the head. It's a really quick project. Alright, I'm going to fix that eye over here where I got some red in it. And I'm going to take some burnt umber and I'm going to fill in the front portion of that eye with burnt umber. So I'm going to round it out here. Bring it in here almost to the corner. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. I'm going to grab my large round and work on those little feathers again. So as this dries, you can go back and add some more brightness. I would go back over the areas that are already white and just kind of brighten them a little bit if so desired, and leave the darker background feathers showing, because that's what's going to give you some of that dimension to make it look like there's some back feathers and some front. Sometimes if you go into the body like that, it'll give you a better base. Then we'll take some white and we'll just come in and make the body brighter. So what I would like to do is just make some more white, kind of white lines that we leave brighter than the rest of the chicken. So I'm not going to overblend, I'm just going to stroke them over the existing colors. So again, right around here, I go a little bit straight, then I start turning them in the other direction. Okay. So I am liking that. I want to do a little bit on the head. Okay, I'm going to take that smaller round brush and get some white on it, and I'm going to come in here and just kind of work on the tips of these feathers, and I'm going to bring some little extra ones out. The bigger brush isn't going to give me as fine a tip, so I'm just going to play with the smaller one. her up close here. All right. So now on the eye, I'm going to take my tiny brush and a little bit of black. And right here, toward the front of this brown, I'm going to put black. And I'm going to leave some brown showing and a little bit of white in the front. Now, if we want to create a lid, we can do that right now while we have the black paint. I'm just going to very carefully paint a little lid there. You could put a little bit of black down in the corner. Okay, you can make it on the bottom too if you'd like. I'm not going to. And then I'm going to take a little bit of white and I'm just going to put a little highlight right there. Okay, so this is looking cute. She's pretty much done. I think I want to add just a little bit more white on the beak. I prefer to hold my brush up, but you, just for the camera, purpose of the camera, I'm laying it down more so that you can see. But I do like to paint up on my bristles, so I have to lift it like this to be able to do that more for you. So you could keep working with this and take a little tiny bit of the brown and maybe a little brown and a little deep red together and just place a little bit here where the beak touches the red. Then wipe your brush and then just kind of pull it onto the rest of the color. And that brought the white down, so we'll just have to go back and put a little bit more brown right under here. And if you want to put a little mark there, you can do that too. All right, so let's take a look. All right, I think this is pretty cute just the way it is. You can go back in as it's drying and you can, you know, take little bits. Here's some bright red and can come in like this and just pat it in a little bit. So you can keep playing and adding bright or dark. It's the lights against the darks that are going to give you your dimension. I'm not too crazy about this point right here, so I'm gonna change that shape a little bit. That's better. I need a little bit of dark red up in there. Get a little bit of white. So one of the best things to do is walk away from it a little bit and then come back in the room. And another thing that I find really helpful is using your cell phone and taking a picture and then looking at your design and your creation through that lens of that photo, and you'll immediately see areas that you might want to go in and tweak a little bit. All right, so I believe that's all we need to do to this cute little farmhouse chicken painting. If you like it, please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel for more wonderful upcoming tutorials. I hope you enjoyed this and painted yourself a nice little chicken. Have a wonderful day.